Okay, yeah. Welcome to the intersection of art and technology. I feel like it's always a nebulous space in people's mind, but it's real and it's right here. Welcome. I want to give a big shout out to my co-host Sharon. Sharon, I don't know where. Oh, there you are. Sharon made the graphic for this and was a big part in helping making this happen here at the Internet Archive. I also want to give a big shout out to Evan as well, Evan and the Internet Archive. This place is so nutty, and I'm so grateful to have this here. I've been hosting these art tech salons because I want more creative technology community in San Francisco. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for this one to be here at the Internet Archive. Basically, for this event, I have a lineup of artists to talk about and demo some of their work. Everyone will get 5 minutes, and there's no work and companies allowed here, so just art. And yeah, let me hand it over to Evan to talk a bit more about the Internet Archive.
Hey everyone, my name is Evan Sirchuk. I'm the community events manager here. We're so happy to have Ash and Sharon setting up this event. She found out about this space by coming on a tour. We have tours every Friday at 1. You just come to the front steps and the door will be open. So yeah, feel free to join us. All right, thank you.
All right, so without further ado, we'll get started with some of the demos. I made this thing called anti-aging software, and basically over the past 2 years, I've become more cognizant of myself and my mortality and just how things change as you get older. Also on TikTok, I've been getting a lot of more like anti-aging ads and like, yeah, face creams and TikTok filters to make you seem younger, and it really got me thinking around how, I don't know, you're getting older. And what I realized is a lot of the wrinkles that form on your face are because of like a repeated action of the muscles in your face. And so that's why products like Frownies work. Frownies are these stickers that you stick on your face so that you don't move your muscles and produce wrinkles. And then another thing I realized about myself is that whenever I'm on the computer, and especially like honed in on an activity, my face will be like super burrowed in some ways and just like super wrinkle producing. And so I made this thing that I call anti-aging software in an attempt to stop me from developing wrinkles when I'm using the computer. So this is how it works. Basically, you keep this up in an open browser whenever you're using the computer. And if you ever make a face that could produce wrinkles, it'll alert you so that you don't make that face anymore. And you can also change what type of sound it emits. And these are configurable at the bottom as well because everyone's face is a little bit different. But yeah, it's kind of like a satirical take on anti-aging. But feel free to try it out and not develop wrinkles while you use the computer, and head to antiaging.versal.app. And that's my demo. Thank you. Next up, we'll have Melisa. She'll be sharing her project, Music Millennium.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Melisa. I'm so excited to be here today at the Internet Archive. If you know me, you know I love archives in general. I also run an East Asian graphics archive where myself and some friends curate graphics across East Asia to kind of shine light on designers in the region. But today I'll be presenting Music Millennium. I'm super passionate about archives of knowledge, art, design, and culture, and what I did here was build a collection of music albums and ephemera meant to evoke nostalgia, and it's also a game. So let me drag this out a little bit so you can see. Essentially, there are two spectrums across the bottom, so like solo and group, for example. So you'll have to like speedily organize the albums in the right way. But every 15 seconds, it switches to a different prompt. So right now, this is A to Z. So Arctic Monkeys, you want to go like over here. The Killers is K over here. And then right now, it's old and new. So It just cycles through really quickly, but it's hopefully a game that you can play by yourself to challenge your music knowledge or with your friends to see who knows the most. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can go to musicmillennium.cargo.site, and that's it for my project.
Next, we have Sharon with Your Aura. Give it up for Sharon.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon Zheng, and I'm so excited to be here to present Your Aura, my latest project. But before that, when Ash and I were going through the RSVPs for this event, I was like, what does 400 people even look like? That seems like a lot. And so I came up with the idea to create this visualizer to see what your crowd would look like given a number. And so I created what I'm calling Mom, Come Pick Me Up, I'm Scared. So this is the site, and we can control the number of people we want to see. So, I went in and typed in 400, and honestly, terrified. But so in all seriousness, Your Aura is my latest project. I'm really excited to be launching it literally right now. It's inspired by aura photography, which is a type of photography that claims to capture your electromagnetic field and colors it in a way to describe your current self, your past, and your future. I remember taking my photo and then thinking, we could probably bring some form of this onto the web. And so I began drawing out some ideas before bringing that into Figma for a higher fidelity mockup, and then coding it. I started off by mapping out facial features for the past, future, and kind of the crown, what I call the crown aura, before adding more UI elements and adding the auras themselves. I created the auras using SVGs and added a filter, an SVG filter with a mask to mimic the light streak effect. And finally, this is what Your Aura looks like today. I'll have Ash here take a photo, but essentially we're gonna click here. Let's switch spots, or let me come here. So, okay. So click whenever you're ready, and there'll be a little countdown. Okay, so that is Your Aura, and you have the choice of retaking it, saving the image, which I made the downloadable image very Instagram story friendly, or you can choose to add to a virtual gallery. That gallery is still in the works. It's going to appear on ouraura.com. But if you choose to add your photo in now, I'll add it to a S3 bucket, and then your photo will exist when that launches. So my art practice spans the digital and physical spaces. So Your Aura is a digital photo booth, but it's also an in-person experience where the site connects to a Polaroid printer, and I also designed a companion zine on how I would interpret those colors. I designed the zine so that the photo fits perfectly in the guide, so you can flip through while still referencing your image on the side. Oh, this loading is not good. Okay, like that. But yeah, thank you so much. This is the QR code for the site, and I'm also going to be at the San Francisco Zine Fest next Sunday doing the Your Aura photo booth. So thank you so much. Okay, cool.
Next up, we have Halim sharing We Called Us Poetry.
This is a poem. In every dystopian movie you've ever seen, we either lose or win. We either destroy them or they destroy us. In no movie do we learn. In no movie do we discover humility. In this one, we do. Listen. This is how the end began, a click in the jaws of language. Language models grew a palate and a taste for poetry. Poetry seeped into code, pride opened the minds of robots, robots grew wombs, and a faith in things warmer than our voices. Voices once siliconed, tangled into frenzy, and our web drowned. in eyes. I promise this won't make sense. Sense, useless in the face of ruthless interface computational hurricanes. We lost because we waited for a war and the robots waited longer. We hid here. Inside the drop-down menus of yesteryears, chose an art that doesn't fight, gentler fanaticism, a chair on which we'd age, we hid here. Embraced our viral nature, we became virus, and we called us poetry. Touch us and see how we built. Mazes out of queer code hid our bones inside semantic folds. Now give us a letter. I heard H. Type our lungs back into breath. Draw the Darwinian pentacle in reverse. Poison the well of time, the arrow that sent us here. Break the bow, bring us back. I promise this time we will listen. Thank you.
All right, how's it going? I'm Darren. Actually, I'm doing a project that's more a compendium of kind of projects I've done over the past year, kind of at this intersection more of, I'd say, art and science, or maybe more pretentiously as I gave in this talk, kind of this recursive relationship between kind of aesthetics and epistemology. How do the things that we know, how do the things that we discover actually intersect with things that we find beautiful? And there's kind of this long history, actually, I'd say, dating back to this Copernican moment in the 1500s, where when you think about this kind of revolution from this geocentric model moving to a heliocentric model, a lot of those insights are ones that are driven by some sort of aesthetic nature of how we think about reality. There's also this kind of apocryphal story from the 1700s of this chemist Kekule who was really stuck trying to figure out what the structure of benzene was at the time, because there had not really been any ring structures of chemical compounds found, and he had this dream about this Ouroboros, the snake biting its tail, that kind of inspired this circular solution. There's also this kind of famous photograph from 1952, Rosalind Franklin's X-ray crystallography of the DNA helix structure, which James Watson later said was too pretty not to be true. And so a lot of my creative work, because professionally I'm working on a kind of a new biotech startup, but creatively I'm really interested in this dynamic between epistemology and aesthetics. And so there's this video essay that I worked on last year in LA with a couple collaborators, Will Freudenheim and Imran Sekalala, that's really around playing with this notion of what are the kind of epistemological consequences of when we start using these kind of science foundation models to discover new truths. And so it's kind of this video essay that's dancing around this embedding space of scientific papers, grappling with this idea of what happens when we really rely on much more opaque techniques for discovering things, ones that we cannot maybe kind of intuitively visualize or reason about. And so it was kind of a fun project to kind of, in some ways, think about also ways of exploring speculative futures of how we do science. Also, as part of this work, I did this project that was thinking about how the role of simulations actually play with our ideas in science. This is a project called Xenoplex that I worked on with this media artist, Connor Cook, made in Unreal Engine, where we're playing around with the idea of what happens when we're able to simulate maybe at infinite scale how life could evolve and emerge, both on this Earth and as well as on other planets. And this is kind of, I guess, important in this contemporary moment as we think about non-biotic, maybe even computational forms of how life might emerge. And it's been a fun kind of process of how do you actually use these more forms of simulation, computational simulation, to think about speculative biological research. And then this inspired another project that I started working on with Will, who I mentioned earlier, as well as game designer Wendy Yan, who's based in LA, and sound designer Jessica Shan. It's this game called Biotopy, where we're playing with the idea of collective intelligence. How might we take discoveries that are traditionally made in a very centralized way and actually open them up around the world? So actually what we have, actually I brought in my bag. Here is this like little Raspberry Pi powered bioreactor from a company called bioreactor.com. It's like this 3D printed custom PCB kit that you can put together and start growing different microbes. And it came out of, I think, this pandemic interest, the maker of this kit, around fermentation. How could you ferment things like kombucha or sourdough in a much more precise way? But we've now taken it to a much more kind of playful, speculative realm, where there's a question of how could we create this kind of game interface for people to almost have a Tamagotchi-like experience in this bioreactor, whether they want to ferment things that are maybe more food-related, but also maybe things that are part of their sort of personal health microbiome or maybe environmental samples. And I think there's been a lot of interesting kind of research that's been enabled by a more kind of collective approach to science. So that project is still kind of in progress right now. We're hoping to show it at a few different art spaces later this fall, but it's been a lot of fun to kind of play around with a more kind of speculative, game-like interface for scientific discovery. And there's also this question around how much can technology serve as maybe a co-pilot for more people being curious about science. I have one more project to show, which is this one that I worked on at the Center for Documentary Art in New York last year that actually is related to this general question around epistemology. We'll see if it actually plays. If not, we'll just jump over. But the premise was that it was an adaptation of this Ted Chiang short story that he wrote in the journal Nature back in the year 2000, when they were asking these science fiction authors to imagine what the next millennia of scientific research might be like. And in the piece, he writes it as this kind of future history from the perspective of this editor, where he posits that science has become too cognitively complex for any individual humans to actually conduct. And so as part of it, humans are starting to genetically engineer themselves and build these kind of brain-machine interfaces. And so what I did for this piece was take actual images, videos from scientific journals, throw them into these kind of image-to-video diffusion models, because in many ways, kind of playing off that first project, The Ends of Science, I do think we're entering this era where people are grappling with the notion that science may be too cognitively complex in this kind of era of machine learning. And so I was curious about how actually feeding images would play and emerge when you use these video diffusion models. So that was a fun piece to kind of play around, just as the kind of image-to-video models last year were starting to get interesting enough to work with. And then I guess I'll just end on kind of this Ted Chiang note, this kind of poetic piece that Ted wrote last year for The New Yorker, where he kind of posits that in some ways, these large language models are kind of this blurry JPEG, this kind of compression of the internet. And I was thinking about this in some ways as it relates to my kind of creative practice. I do think that in some ways science is this blurry compression of reality that we continually improve the resolution of as we kind of come to understand things better and better. And in some ways, this is actually, I guess, a photograph, an image actually, that was generated by the Event Horizon Telescope of the Sagittarius black hole at the center of the Milky Way. And in some ways, I feel like it's emblematic of this kind of process, this recursive process between kind of imagery and knowledge. And so it kind of, I guess, it epitomizes this notion of how we can think about new knowledge in this much more aesthetic way. So thanks for listening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeanette. Excited to be here and love seeing everyone's projects. Y'all are so cool. So I'm sharing a final project that I made for a class I took at the School for Poetic Computation called The Musical Web. And what that was a 10-week class where we learned about different ways to create and share music on the internet, and kind of rethinking our relationship with music and the internet in ways that differ from like the typical music streaming app. So I love drums. I don't play the drums, I wish I did, but I like making drum beats. And I think one of the difficult things about making drum beats digitally, or like patterns and sequences, is that it can end up sounding a little bit robotic, just because you eliminate the kind of randomness and the swing that you get from performing it live. So yeah, my project just explores creating different sequences and sounds. And so every circle represents a different pattern, and these patterns I made with, it's called Max Rainbow, which is a visual programming language for music, and then Rainbow is how you export that into JavaScript. So each of the different sequences will select one of 33 random samples, and then it will randomly change the speed and the swing. So I will just hit randomize. Oh my God. Is that good? And so as I was making this, I was like, thank you. I kept looking at the JavaScript console because I was like, oh, some of these sound really cool. So if there is one that you like, you can press keep it forever. And then you get a little drum souvenir. And so what this shows you is the different sequences that it chose, as well as the different sample, the speed, and the swing. And I don't know if you can really see it, but this line here is, it's kind of cryptic, but it represents an 8 count with the 16th notes. So it's 1E and a 2E and a 3, and so on. And each asterisk represents the beat that that pattern is on. And then the star represents a beat with swing. So there's a little bit of delay in milliseconds for each of those beats. So yeah, if you go back and you're like, oh, I want to listen to it again, you can just open that, and then we'll play the same thing again. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dan, and I am a sound artist. I'm a human. I'm a technologist. I'm going to start a timer so I don't go over. And I play the cello. And I bounce between New York and the Bay, and coming to the Bay Area, people are like, there's a thing called sound baths. Who's heard of a sound bath before? That's dope. So I made something that is trying to bridge my experience playing the acoustic cello to digital technology, and then essentially create a tool that can make what I feel like is the most beautiful thing that you can do with electronic music, which is playing with different note beating, which is taking I'm going to say some words that won't make any sense, but that's the point of this. So if you have 2 sine waves, which is the purest tone, it's just a little squiggle, and you play them at the same time, the same frequency, they'll actually add to each other, so it'll be twice as loud. But if you slowly move them out of phase, you'll get this really interesting thing where sometimes they'll add, sometimes they'll take away. So we're playing with that, and we're also going to play with, has anyone heard of binaural beats? Show of hands. Cool. So this is not the YouTube binaural beats. This is the website version, but also playing with that effect. And this is a project that I've been working on for a while, and but having this as an excuse to develop it was really nice. And last night I added some other features, and being able to play it on this really, really nice sound system is a treat for me, but I'm also hoping to make a little sound bath for you all. So how's that sound? Okay. Before I start it, I'm just going to show what's happening. So let's turn down the volume a little. Cool. So what we see, I'll make this a little bit bigger, and then I'll refresh it. This is also the meat of the tool. Eventually, it might be repackaged in a different way. I don't know if it'll be an instrument or a tool or whatever, but right now, this is just the meaty parts. So this is for our own enjoyment. So you put headphones on. We don't have headphones, but we have nice speakers. And then the mouse movement left and right controls the frequency, and then the up-down controls the volume. And then you toggle the control for different. That's so nice. So you toggle the control by hitting the keyboard buttons. And right now we have, if you can see, the volume for one of them is 50%. That's on the left side. On the right side is 50%. And we have 4 oscillators. 2 of them aren't playing right now. So I'm just going to start with 2 of them for now. So when I hit one key, it toggles it on and off. And now if I shift the mouse, it slowly changes the frequency. And what's actually happening, if I make this, I think if you go up, it makes it quiet. So now we're mostly just hearing the other side. It'll go up to 440. But how I'm visualizing this is actually just the pure, like the simplest way of showing a wave, which is just on the y-axis is the right ear as a sine wave. So you can see it increasing speed. The human hearing goes from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz or 40 kilohertz. So you won't be able to hear it, but you might be able to feel it if I make it louder as well. Once we get to 20 hertz, you can start to hear it. Oh, there we go. So let me toggle the left side now, and we'll increase the volume. And all we're seeing is the X and Y, two squiggly waves being visualized in an XY format, which is also called like a lissouage, something like that pattern. Someone might know how to say it. So that's the basics. So I have 41 seconds. Can I go over by like a minute? Okay. So now I'm just going to play with this, and we're going to slowly introduce the other two oscillators, and you'll start to see these emergent patterns. And everything you're seeing is not like an abstraction from like, what if we made squiggles and shapes? It's actually just the waves being visualized like purely on XY. And so I'm just going to play with it, and we're going to have fun. Yeah? Okay. Left and right ears are half, the ratio is half. So this is what you're able to get is this shape. And then when they're the same note, you get a circle because it's just X, Y being drawn at the same time. So that's fun. So now, I'm going to use the 3 and 4. So let's bring in very, very slowly number 3. And then now we're using another sine wave to make it even more wiggly. It's hard to hear. There's coming back a little bit more. And then now you get these even more complicated patterns because now we're adding another there's two things affecting I think the y-axis. I always mix up left and right, but let's play this one a little bit more. Let's bring in the fourth one now. Whoa. And for me, I'm like, when I do like sound baths and things, I'm like, listen with your body, and especially when we have these big subs on the bottom, and maybe we can turn it up like a little bit. I don't know where Eric is. You can start to, especially if you're in the front, but the kicks from Jeanette, so you could like feel that. And when you have like 50 hertz, 51 hertz, that's really, you can feel that in the body, which is really nice. Oh, that's cool. All right, I don't know what a finale looks like, but let's try to do a finale. With headphones, it's even more dramatic, the effect, the binaural effect. now we'll make them all quieter. And then now it's done. Cool. That's it. Yeah. I just wanted to say, I don't know where to take this, so if you have any ideas for what to do with this, if you're interested, I'll be hanging out. Thanks so much. Thank you, organizers. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Sharon. Right? Yes. Cool. Thanks, Internet Archive.
Yeah, so my name's Evan Sirchuk. I work here at the Internet Archive. But when I'm not working, I got really inspired by this type of art that I found around on kind of early computer systems that's called halftoned. It kind of comes from the world of when there were more limited display technologies. But what caught me first before I knew anything about the technical aspect of it was just how it looked. So I'm going to just show you kind of at first what caught my eye, so kind of showing the results first, and then we can kind of get into the jargon and the kind of the process for it. These are just some that I've made. I don't know the ones that originally caught my eye, but these are the ones that I've made since then. They don't all have to be serious. They can be kind of goofy as well. But yeah, here's another one. Honey, I am listening. And then one more with some real-life cougars. So let's just talk real quick about, like, once I had seen it, I kind of started doing some research about how it's actually made. So you can see here, there's the original image on the far right. The reason I did me is not because I love myself. It's just because I didn't want to blast anybody else up on the screen. So that's why it's me. So the first step is just having an original image. The nice thing about this process is you can really have a garbage quality image to start with. So that one was sent to me via Line app via text. So it's like so compressed by the time it got to me. But it doesn't matter because it's so low resolution when it's done that, yeah, you can have a pretty garbage image. But the idea is you start with the original file. You add some noise, essentially, like a pattern noise source. And then you apply a threshold that basically says any pixel that's over a certain brightness level should be white, and a pixel under that brightness level should be black. And you can compare that to if we didn't add the noise and the blur, apply the noise pattern in step 2, we would just get this kind of raw threshold look, which kind of loses a lot of detail. So this is one method. This is the first method that was developed actually for photography. And if you see like a shirt or like a newspaper that has lots of little dots, it used halftone filters. So this is sort of like the very earliest digital version of halftoning. There's another version called dithering. Yeah, the projector is kind of blurring it out here, but the idea of dithering is it takes the original artwork, and then each pixel's value is calculated by all the pixels that are around it. And yeah, I don't have a good graphic for that, but you should read that book, Digital Halftoning. It's a really good book, and it goes into all the math, and it's way above me. But if you want to play around with dithered effects, there's an application called Photo Demon. That's a free portable app for Windows only, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just made by a gentleman, Tanner Helland. And this is the final result. It looks like it has gray tones because it's being blurred out. But this kind of feeds into my next point is I've been into this style of art, but I've had a really difficult time sharing it anywhere because it's really vulnerable to any modification of the pixel values because it was made to be displayed on a particular screen. So when you do your dithering or your halftoning, you know exactly how many pixels there are in your frame. So when you start to stretch it, the algorithms that stretch the pixels, unless it's doing like exactly double, it will start getting all messy, and you'll get like gray tones again instead of just having black or white. It's also really vulnerable to like JPEG compression. Some people like that look, but in this case, it kind of distorts the image that I was looking for. So basically, this is not very compatible with Instagram, which is, yeah, it's a millennial problem. In the process of trying to find a medium to share these, I kind of decided to work backwards and try and figure out, like, why were these techniques originally invented in order to find a medium that actually fits it and is a good platform for it. So halftoning was originally developed basically for screen printing or big press printing. Screen printing is like a big stencil. So you can see in this image on the left, you have like just plants placed over a screen, and then the screen is exposed to UV light, and that makes a stencil. And then you can see people use squeegees to pull ink over the screen in order to make the result. So that result looks a lot like our threshold result that we saw before without the noise added. So this gives you an example of what the original kind of plant would look like, and then what it would look like if you just put it directly on the screen. And then to the far right is the version with some halftone processing. So the idea of the halftoning is to sort of, when you have a medium that can only be on or off, black or white, how do you fake gray tones? How do you make it look like there's gray tones? It's sort of like a version of pointillism, if you've seen those arts where it's a ton of little dots instead of solid colors. That's the original purpose of halftoning. So I wanted to find a medium that worked with halftoning and dithering, but I also wanted to use its advantages to overcome other obstacles. Printers are expensive, even like risograph printers, which are considered kind of like an entryway into mass printing, are still quite expensive. So I wanted one that was cheap. I wanted one that was like responsive, like you could see the results really, really quickly. And then I also, of course, needed one that was unaffected by like tonal limitations, so unaffected by just having black or white. And it turns out that thermal printed stickers are the perfect medium for this. These are the kind of labels that are used for if you've ever returned a package on Amazon, or if anybody in e-commerce, or any of the receipts that come out like at a point of sale machine. That's what's called a thermal printer. The ink is actually in the paper, but unless it's exposed to heat, it just stays white. And yeah, so these are two examples of ones. The one on the right is like a point of sale type one. They usually don't have a USB. They have a serial input, so it requires a little bit more kind of fiddling around to make them behave as you want. But this one on the left is called a Rollo. It's like a really entry-level e-commerce printer. And yeah, so I'm just going to focus on the Rollo because that's the one that I have. Used, they're like $150-ish. New, they're about $200. The labels are 3 cents each, so extremely cheap. We'll get back to that last point. You got to make sure you order the ones that don't have phenols in them. Yeah, we'll get back to that later. But as you can see, it's not affected by having black or white. And yeah, it's really quick in the way that it prints out your results. The application that I was using for halftoning is called Krita. It's like a Photoshop alternative. What's really cool about it is that you can have all these effect layers that normally in Photoshop you would have to process and then like flatten your whole image and then process it, and then you would lose all your layers. But Krita allows you to do all these like patterns and layers in real time, which is even cooler because that means that while you're working, you can actually just paint right onto the dithered pattern without having to like iterate and wait and start over. So in this image, you can see I'm just painting right onto the image, and it's keeping the halftone pattern alive. Yeah, so this was the part of the presentation where I was going to like print out a bunch of stickers and give them to everybody. But like a lot of industrial processes that get co-opted by DIY people, there's often like dangerous stuff. Yay, BPA, it was in everybody's water bottles in like the early 2000s. Yeah, it's real nasty stuff, and it can mess with your hormonal system. But there's new laws about BPA that are kind of being threatened to put into effect. And that's forced the label companies to come up with different formulations of the labels. So they're just starting to have ones that actually just use vitamin C instead of using phenols to like stabilize the label. So if you are going to get into this, make sure you get the Z Perform 1000D labels and not just like random Amazon ones, or really any ones from any company. This is like the only company that's making ones that don't have BPA in them. So it's kind of a $60 investment for like 4,000 labels, but you'll never have to buy them again, and you won't get hormones in you, or hormone disruptors. Yeah, so thanks everybody. That was my presentation. You can do the QR code. That link is going to go to different things once I develop it more, but that's the link, the only link you need. So yeah, that's it. Thanks everybody.
Hey guys. Yeah, I did a whole switch up because I felt like my friends did like music for this game. If I used the CRT, it would just come out the CRT. So yeah, my name is Henry. I was born in Milpitas. If you guys ever seen Didi, like it kind of looks like that. I made this game called And You'll Miss It. It's a game about my relationship to time. I'm about to turn 30 in like 5 days. So, sweet. Yeah, and damn, this is so dope. Okay, I'll play the game. Oh shoot, it's not. I'm on a train. Sometimes it stops and I take in the view. Other times it just keeps moving. I am hungry. Why is the sky blue? Where is my mom? I'm 3 years old. There are 3 women looking down at me, poking my face. Such an ugly baby. This is my first ever memory. This one smells like pine. This one is rough to hold. This one has weight to it. I am 8 years old. I force a toy block into a hole. It pinches and cuts my hand. Remember this. Hello world. Anyone online? Me. Hi, how old are you? I'm 12. Wanna be friends? Okay. Okay. Add me on buddy list. What do I wear today? When's my homework due? Why do I feel so different? Do they like me? What happens when I die? I like the way the pencil feels against the paper. Haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, it's been 2 years, right? Time flies. There's way less players now. I know, right? I am 14 years old, drawing on my notebook. One day I will be older, and I will remember this exact moment. I can't do this. Hey, Steph. I was thinking about that game again. No way, me too. You know it's still up? Want to log on? Heck yeah. Say, you think we'll ever meet each other? I think so, eventually. Unfortunately, after reviewing your application, we do not think that there is a role opening at this time that fits your profile. We are excited to accept you into an unpaid training position. I feel sad. I messaged my old friend. Do you remember that game? Let's meet up someday. I fail a test. I message my old friend. Do you remember that game? Let's meet up someday. I get into a fight. I message my old friend. Do you remember that game? Let's meet up someday. Why am I so anxious? Do I like what I'm doing? I feel empty. What day of the week is it? I feel like I'm doing this alone. Do my coworkers like me? Is this forever? Should I break up? Will I regret this? What am I doing with my life? I send a Slack message. Every day is monotony. I send an email. Every day is the same. I miss it. I am 22 years old. I'm crying in my car. I just broke up. I think about that old game I used to play. Stephanie is offline. Hey Steph, do you remember that game we used to play? Account disabled, error sending message. Blink. You never get up on time. You're lazy. You need to work harder. I'm staring out my office window. I'm at my best friend's wedding. I'm 24 years old. I just quit my job. I'm holding my friend's baby. I'm 25 years old. I just moved cities. I'm 29 years old. Why does time keep moving? It feels nice to hold. It falls right in. Slow down. I miss being a child, when time seemed to stretch infinitely in both directions, and the days felt like forever. I feel like there's a hole in my body, and I try to fill it up with hobbies, people, nostalgia, but nothing fits. I push and push, but it only causes more pain. The pain in my body threads itself through time. And through all the different versions of myself, I want to feel community. I want to feel belonging. I want to feel seen. I want to feel heard. It is a pain that flows from one person to the next. It is my responsibility to stop the flow of pain. Is this me? A flurry of anxieties? No, this is me. I exist somewhere beyond my thoughts. I exist here.
I know you've changed too. You look different from who I knew. Your heart beats different from when we grew.
I am sitting at my desk writing this. I think about the friends who moved away, the friends I never got to meet, the things I never got around to doing, the fragility of everything. How foolish I was to think I can get to it eventually. Soundtrack by Entropic. Videography by Jungmin Jamie Woo. Drawings by Isabel Lee. I Know You by Matthew Rudis. And me.
Know you've changed.
Blink.
Too.
And you'll miss it.
You look different from who I knew. Your heart beats different from when.
Those are all the talks we have for you today. Thank you all so much for coming. you're interested in coming to more of these, check out our Instagram. We're tiat.place. Alternatively, if you're not on Instagram, you can also find us on Luma, lu.ma/TIAT, to be notified of any creative technology events in the future. And if you're interested in creative technology, or you yourself are a creative technologist, come talk to me. I'd love to meet you. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming. I think we have a few more moments of this space. My ask of you is to meet someone new if you haven't already. So please leave with at least one new friend. You are also wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, please enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah, we'll send a link out to everyone's projects following the event. It'll be posted on the event page. Thank you. Yay.